Hello, this is Randy. Welcome back to Brain Break with Randy and Keitho, though it's just me. When I was a young man in high school, I ran track and cross country. I was rarely the fastest guy, but I really enjoyed running. When I was in junior high, I made a friend, a guy that was incredibly fast, Thomas Oakes. He was amazing. He went on and went to West Point, and I've lost track of him. But I really liked him as a guy, a friend. I believed his father had gone to West Point. He was just a great guy. He was raised right, very strict, and he always had a really short haircut. Unfortunately, I didn't. In my day and time, we went with what was called the Apache look, where we'd get our haircut to start school and probably for Christmas, and then again, get your head buzzed when school was over. We didn't spend a lot of money on barbers back then. And by the Apache, I mean, we just kind of kept it growing and down to our shoulders. But anyway, we can't all be perfect, but some of our examples are pretty close to it. There was a guy that I went to school with, and his name was John, and he was hilarious. He was the most flexible guy I've ever met. He was much taller than I was. He could literally bend at the waist and put his shoulders behind his knees and then walk away from us, making funny faces at us upside down. I don't know how he did it, but one day he showed up on the track and he did the high jump. I think he was our state champion in the high jump. He was incredible. So I tried everything. I tried hurdling. I tried pole vaulting. I wasn't that great at any of them. I tried the long jump. I was impressed with the people that were very good. That wasn't me. I used to get up in the morning, throw my newspapers, and I would get dressed and I would run. I would run 5 to 10 miles and then go to school and shower and change into the clothes in the backpack I was wearing. Then I would leave a set of clothes in my gym locker, and then I'd do my classes. And then afterwards, after school, I'd go to track practice, and then I would run home. It was the life I knew, and it was fun. We used to run a lot for track and cross country. We did lift weights, but more than anything, it was just running. We do wind sprints, but a lot of it was distance running. I had a friend that I'd run with occasionally, and he was Catholic. He came from a very good family. I can't remember if his father ran a grocery store or a pharmacy, but he was a good kid. He was a good Catholic kid. So he'd want to go on our runs by his parish and stop and confess. He did that every week. And then he'd come out and tell me how many Our Fathers he had to say and how many Hail Marys. And at first, I didn't know what he was talking about because I was a little Mormon boy and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I didn't know them then, but by the time we finished running that year, I knew him very well because I said them with him. The way he counted it, I found out later, was that if I said them with him, if he had 20 and I said 10, and he said 10, he was done. But he was a good guy, an amazing guy, and I'm sure he didn't really have that many to confess, but his family raised him right. I'm grateful that I was raised around guys whose family raised them right, and girls too. They were all pretty incredible. Now, as an infant, I was an early walker, but I wasn't able to run until I was almost 7. It didn't really bother me, but it worried my parents quite a bit. So they took me to the doctor and they diagnosed me, because everybody had polio in those days, as having polio. My dad was studying for his PhD, his Doctorate of Business Administration at USC. There happened to be a very famous doctor over there who I got to visit with. Basically, he diagnosed me as cured from polio, but that I would have some problems from having had polio. That was kind of explaining to my family why I wasn't able to run for so long. I mean, all my friends wore these really cool small bikes, and I had to ride this big old clunker because it would make me stretch my muscles. And, it was also heavy. It probably weighed 4 or 5 times what their bikes did. But that's okay. It was an interesting bike. In fact, my dad bought it from the LA Times, and they used it for their newspaper carriers. These were adult men. It was a big bike. It was called a Schwinn Wasp, if you want to look it up. So as I got older, I started having problems. I had a friend who had polio. I was convinced that I was having some of the same symptoms she did, which is called post-polio syndrome. And it's after you've had polio and you survive, these symptoms come back. And so I was sent to a neurologist, and she tested me very painfully for an hour and a half. 2 hours. And then she sent me to another neurologist, and he tested me again for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then sent me on to another neurologist. Now, what happened was, and this is all happened when I was 54, I had surgery on my ankle because I'd been told it was sprained. I sprained my ankles constantly. This I went to see a surgeon, and he said, ankles don't stay sprained for 18 months. We need to look at this. So he sent me to for an MRI that very day. I went like at 9:30 at night, called me at 11, and wanted to discuss the MRI. And he says, you need surgery, you need it soon. Your two tendons that you've severed, what you thought was a sprained ankle, those are disappearing back up into your leg. And if we don't operate soon, we may not be able to retrieve both of them and repair them. He said, who do you want to do the surgery? And well, he was my friend and an orthopedic surgeon. I said, well, I guess you. He said, well, I had to talk to your podiatrist. He knows how to do this, and see if he wants to do it. I said, well, okay, I'll leave it up to the two of you. Anyway, got back to me the next day and said, I'm going to do it. I've scheduled you for surgery on this Thursday. My plan is you'll be up and walking again. You won't be able to do everything, but in 4 days. I thought that was acceptable. I stayed off my foot. I did everything they told me to do. By Monday, I really couldn't get out of bed. Tuesday, I didn't get out of bed. And it turned out to be for 3 or 4 months, I really needed help, even getting from the bed I was staying in downstairs to the couch. I'd stay on the couch all day long unless I had to go to the bathroom. My wife would set me up with food, water, and she would go to work. I just started a new job. In fact, when my boss came down to work with me to take me to an account, he had to basically help me out of the house and into the truck. Then we went and made our calls, and I did the technical work. Basically, on the side of the truck, I was trying to move around on crutches, and that's hard to do in dirt. I mean, it was construction zone dirt. So after 4 months of this struggling with not healing, not being able to do anything, they sent me to these neurologists, and the neurologists all got together and said, hey, we need to talk to you. And they said, well, you never had polio. They described why I didn't have it. I've since done the research myself, and they're right. I never had polio. I had a disease related to muscular dystrophy. As a boy, I never had a clue that I had this disease because I've had it my whole life. With this disease, not everybody even survives childhood. My doctor, my neurologist, as far as she's concerned, it's just because I'm stubborn. When they gave me this diagnosis, they gave me a prescription for an electric wheelchair, a walker, and I think a cane. I bought the cane on my own. I didn't use the prescription. Don't use the cane very much. I'm kind of like President Hinckley, that if they say carry a cane, I'll carry it. But that's about it. They got me physical therapy. But to give you an idea of how my life had changed, I was a guy that used to go to work and I'd climb ladders and steps and be everywhere. It took me 7 years to be able to climb steps again. 7 years. Anyway, to this day, I can't walk on uneven ground. I miss running. I can't run anymore. I used to ride a regular bike. Now I have to ride an electric bike in case I get tired, and the electric bike can get me back home. I've been able to walk up to 6 miles with this disease, but my normal day is being able to walk. So the reason I tell you that is as we're going to get surprised by a lot of things. All I can say is I hear about these Karens and these Chads that whine about somebody that's using a handicap space. They can't tell they're handicapped. Well, I have one of those license plates on my cars. And most of the time, I hope I don't look handicapped. But I can't walk as far as I used to. I just can't do it. No one has ever approached me, but if they did, I'd be happy to explain to them why I have one. Most of us are going to end up having health problems that people can't see, whether it's a mental health problem, which unfortunately a lot of us will be afflicted with, or if it's another physical problem. I have a friend who's in his 80s, and he was recently diagnosed with having brain cancer. He at first didn't want to do anything about it, and then he chose to fight it. Decided he didn't want to leave his family and his wife. Other than him being a little forgetful from time to time and not being able to do as much as he used to do. I mean, this is a guy that such a good example. On the days that it was garbage day, he would take in not only his garbage can, but all the neighbors. The same thing with recycling days. Some of them have 2 bins. He just would take them in and never say a word about it. He's just that kind of neighbor. So I appreciate all that you guys have done to stay with me and to give me a chance to talk about my life and experiences. Thank you so much for joining me for Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. Please like and subscribe. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to hear more about. I love comments. If you can, tell your friends and family about us. I think some of these lessons might be good for others to hear, don't you? Have a great day. Thank you again for joining me.